Ffraegar is finally out in Call of Dragons, so it is time to introduce her into our Commander series. So, in this video, we're gonna be breaking down her skills, her pairings, what artifacts should be used with her, and so much more. So, let's get started. What is up, guys? MEOWER here, back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. So, Ffraegar is finally out, so it is time to showcase what her builds will be, what her pairings will be, and of course her artifacts and so much more. With that being said, let's get started. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to stay tuned for Syndrome's guide as well and his induction into the Commander series revamped. I will leave the playlists in the description of this video and of course in the pinned comment, so be sure to check them both out as they have all the legendary commanders and their builds and the important epic commanders and their builds. So we'll be starting off with her skills. Ffraegar's skills are pretty straightforward in a sense that they are one of the first skills outside of Husk that normally impact normal attack crit rate bonus, especially in the Rage skill. So we're gonna be breaking down her skills and then we're gonna go ahead and check her talents. So starting off, her first skill, Squall Shot. It deals hero skill damage to the enemy target legion with a really low damage factor of up to 600, while granting Ffraegar's legion a normal attack focus, increasing the normal attack crit rate by 60% for up to 7 seconds. Now, do note this 7 seconds mean it will have a permanent uptime when it is level 5 because it takes around 6.5 seconds for a rage skill to cast between each and every cycle. So so it is really urgent that you get her first skill to level 5, which should be a rule of thumb anyway, that you always get the first skill to level 5 for any commander before you start starring them up and unlocking their further skills. Normal attack crit rate by 60% is pretty nice, but for an archer commander, I have some doubts on it because archers usually don't stay in range to auto attack a lot, but for behemoths, it's gonna be fantastic damage. So already she seems like she's going to be amazing for behemoths, but for PvP, especially in the open field, it is really hard to stay consistent in terms of damage output when you are auto attacking others. But we'll see how it goes, especially because I will eventually be leveling her up from the Wheel of Fortune. So we'll see how it goes in that regard. And then the damage factor is pretty low, so it seems like she's more of an auto attack commander. And we'll see why. While in the field, knocked and loaded, Ffraegar's Legion deals 5% more normal attack damage and gains 5% defense, which scales up to 15% of each. Pretty decent skill, nothing too major, not too high, not too low, pretty basic. And then Storm Barrage, all marksman units in Ffraegar's gain 10% physical attack and 10% normal attack crit damage. Now, normal attack crit damage is pretty great because this is really high, especially when paired with her first skill. So it seems like she is more of a crit normal attack based commander, which is a pretty new playstyle in Call of Dragons. So we'll see how it goes. I think she's going to be pretty great for behemoths nonetheless. And of course, the physical attack bonus scales up to 20%, and the normal attack crit scales up to 30%. So this will probably be her second most important skill. And finally, when Ffraegar's Legion launches a normal attack, they have a 20% chance to gain haste, increasing their march speed by 15%, which scales up to 30, and then slowing the enemy Legion rage accumulation speed by up to 20%, which is crazy. I think this is the first skill we've seen that actually impacts rage accumulation speed. So this is a very high value skill. However, I still do prefer getting her third skill to level 5 first, and then getting her fourth skill to level 5, and then finally her second skill. Next up, her Awakening. It enhances her Rage skill, which just increases the damage factor from 600 to 800. Overall, nothing too amazing, nothing too great. So even if you don't awaken her, just having her at 5-1, 5-5 will be more than perfect on her. I note I still haven't started working on her because I'm waiting for the Wheel of Fortune, as she is a Wheel of Fortune commander. Now for her talents. Ffraegar has Marksman, Peacekeeping, Mobility, peacekeeping and mobility are both completely awful for marksman units, so we're just going to be having a singular build on this. I don't see her working with any other build if she is primary, mainly due to the fact that she has access to the mobility tree, which is already one of the worst trees in Call of Dragons, paired with peacekeeping, which has almost no synergy whatsoever with archers. So we're going to go for the standard attack, defense, HP, and then we're going to give her balanced heart, and then we're going to be using marksman as our primary tree. We're going to go for marksman attack. We can go for high spirits, or we can go for marksman march speed increase, and we can also go for fully loaded. I would prefer fully loaded out of three, so we're going to go for attack fully loaded, just to make her normal attacks hit harder, so it scales better with the crit damage she's going to provide. And then we're not going to go for steady shot because I think it's pretty lame. I think alert will be much better, and she doesn't need intimidation as her primary skill does really low damage already. So we can use alert because she already provides no defensive stats aside of 15% bonus, which is not that great. So taking up to 1.5% less damage could make or break a fight. And then we're going to go for Bullseye because it synergizes well with Archer playstyle. You're not going to be standing in place and fighting every single time. It's going to be a lot of kiting involved, hit and run and such, so you can get the highest value out of Bullseye. And then you can also go Shower of Blows, but I don't like Shower of Blows at all because because of her pairings, they don't really do any skill damage whatsoever. So you're not going to gain anything from Shower of Blows on her. And then we're going to be going for the extra HP paired with Delight, so we can range accumulation faster and get off her skills much quicker. Or you can go for dealing extra 5% to magic units and paired with one below. This is not good. Collisionist. We can go for an extra um, binding snare is pretty great. So I think instead magic counterattacks into binding snare is much better. And then finally we're gonna have three options. Harvest is pretty nice, and so is radical, but I think counterattack is much better because you do desperately need counterattack as an archer march. And then finally we're gonna go for um, pursuit, mainly because they get inflicted by fragility, so you're gonna be hitting like a truck with all that crit damage and all that crit rates. And then we're gonna use mobility tree as our secondary. We're gonna go for overall speed, we're gonna go for overall attack, and then we're gonna go for adrenaline rush. And then finally we can go for swift maneuvers, or we can go for preemptive preparations. I think preemptive preparations is the best one, especially for the open field, because you're not really going to be raiding with archers anyways, so you're not going to have any synergy whatsoever with swift maneuvers. So it's going to be preemptive preparations. Yeah, it's not that valuable over time, but it still synergizes well with an archer playstyle because you're not going to be staying in combat as long as something like a mage march would be. So just to recap, her build: overall attack, overall defense, HP, balance heart, and then marksman attack, fully loaded, alert, bullseye, magic counterattacks, binding snare, last word, and then finally pursuit. And then in the mobility tree, overall speed, overall attack, adrenaline rush, and finally preemptive preparations. That is it for her first talent tree, and I think this is her most viable talent tree. I don't see going a route with something like a full on mobility tree, but if you do choose to go that way, then I'll just give you a build regardless. We're gonna go for overall attack, we're gonna go for overall defense, overall HP, balanced heart, and then we're going to go for the standard start of the mobility tree where we go overall speed, overall attack, and adrenaline rush, and then preemptive preparations. And then we're going to go for plan B because we want to go as fast as possible. We don't need all conquering and we don't need intimidation because you don't really do any skill damage at all. So you're not going to get any value of it. However, you can always just go for these two, gain haste and plan B and sneak attack, and then finally put a point in maneuverability so you can escape faster if you lose a lot of HP all of a sudden, or you get caught off guard by cavalry march, or if you even go for the Wilderberg faction because she is a flying commander after all, so you can go for this one and go for the Wilderberg and then just raid a lot of gatherers and such. And then You can go for either passing shadows or victory rush. However, I do prefer passing shadows just to get that big burst of march speed and defense for 10 seconds. And this will always have an uptime as long as you cast an artifact skill, because artifacts have a cooldown of 90 seconds. And then marksman, marksman attack, marksman fully loaded, alert, and of course, finally, bullseye. That is it for her two viable skills. I don't like the peacekeeping tree. I just don't like anything in it at all. I don't think it's even worth going a peacekeeping tree on a legendary commander, especially unless they provide a commander that increases XP for everyone that's paired with them, which I doubt they will do that for a legendary. So peacekeeping tree is a big no-no. That is it for her builds. Now for her pairings. The way Ffraegar's skills are set, I think she pairs best with Syndrome, as Syndrome does have an increased double attack, which will also last for all 7 seconds, and I'll explain why in Syndrome's guide, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can know why. And of course, I think she has a lot of synergy with Hosk. I don't think she has that much synergy with someone like Nico, because Nico's whole point pairing with uh, Kinara is the massive amounts of counterattack they both have, which makes them synergize so well with each other. But of course, Nico does have a defense break, and defense break scale does pretty well with everyone, so she can even work with Nico as his secondary. And she can work with Hosk, either with Hosk as a primary for access to the precision and overall tree, or she can be the primary with Hosk secondary just to gain that extra attack. And of course, he does provide more crit rate, which is up to 90% crit rate with her and Hosk when they're both paired together, which is pretty great. Will hit or hurt like a truck, and it will synergize super well with each other. I think those two are her main pairings for the open field, especially. But you can also run her with Craig or Thea if you want to run a flying march and you have the Wilderberg faction, just so you can access the Wilderberg flying Wyvern riders that also gain HP and that skill damage dealt, but this does not really synergize with her, so you're gonna be missing out on a lot of stats or an active that doesn't really boost her in any shape or form. You don't really need the HP as an archer, and you don't need the skill damage on her because she doesn't really deal that much skill damage, and both flying commanders don't really have high skill damage to go with. Anyway, now, as for her artifacts, of course, Shadow Blades is the go-to on any Archer March blindly, and you can also go for Viola's Bow just to silence, because Viola's Bow range is pretty high, and it can seal targets that cannot cast artifact skills for 10 seconds. You can also run Blink on her, even though she could be a flying. But Blink will not, just for the active, but Blink does provide cavalry unit attacks, so it's 50-50. You can also run Springbird Feather if you are planning on using her to raid just for the gained extra march speed. However, her main two artifacts will be Shadow Blades and Viola's Bow. After all, I don't see any other artifact working that well with her. Heart of Kamasai doesn't really function that well with her, as she's not really a support commander. You want to use her as a main damage dealer. Now, as to firmware, you can get her tokens. I mentioned before that she is a Wheel of Fortune commander, so she can be obtained from the Wheel of Fortune that appears on day 2 of every SLE. And of course, she can be obtained from the Wheel of Destiny as soon as your season resets or you enter a new season, you will be able to obtain her from the Wheel of Destiny. And then once you unlock her, the only method to upgrade her will be using universals or from the VIP shop daily login. As you can see right here, she is a season 2 commander, so only season 2 tokens work on her. You'll notice that little tag, she can only be exchanged for season 2 custom tokens or the flat out universal tokens, which both of these are the only two that work on her right there. That is it for Ffraegar's guide, but this is the only video where I will be calling her Ffraegar. As I said before, her name is Falalala or Falafel, whichever the name you choose will be. However, thank you for watching. If you like videos like this, please be sure to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Meow meow.